Bom dia, bonjour, je m'appelle Nathalie Yamb. La semaine dernière,
Hello, my name is Nathalie Yamb. Last week, Turkey officially applied to join the BRICS. This brings the number of countries from the global south expressing a desire to join the alliance in 2024 to about 30. But what makes this group so attractive? How is it organized? Why was it created, and where does it stand on the global geopolitical chessboard? Who can realistically hope to join, and under what procedures? These are some of the questions I will address in this commentary that many of you have requested and which I am recording from Brazil, one of the founding members. Let's go.
Brésil, l'un des membres fondateurs. Allons-y. Qui sont les BRICS? Le 16 juin 2000.
Who are the BRICS? On June 16, 2009, Russia, then presided over by Dmitry Medvedev, invited Chinese, Brazilian, and Indian leaders to a meeting in Yekaterinburg to reflect and work on, I quote, creating the conditions for a more just world order. Indeed, the global governance decided by the victors of World War II, with the establishment of the United Nations and the Bretton Woods institutions, has evolved over the years into a glaring imbalance in favor of the United States and the West. Several events have ended up seriously irritating other countries and endangering their interests. I will mention a few, starting with Richard Nixon's unilateral abandonment of the gold standard in 1971. This gave rise to the monetary hegemony of the US dollar and its use to extend American law beyond its borders. It allowed the United States to become the world's money printer and build their economic power on credit. The American invasions and interventions in Somalia, Haiti, Kosovo, Afghanistan, Iraq, Pakistan, as well as the numerous coups and color revolutions supported by the CIA, have destabilized many countries and allowed the United States to position itself as the world's police. The failure to uphold the commitment of not expanding NATO eastward after the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989 brought its military arsenal and influence to Russia's doorstep. Finally, the subprime crisis and the collapse of the American and Western real estate market in 2008 to 2009 were the last straw. The four major emerging economies of the world, namely Brazil, Russia, India, and China, decided that the time was right to form an alliance. This alliance would work to better defend their interests and give rise to a multipolar world. In Ekaterinburg in 2009, the group took the name BRIC, formed from the first letter of each of the founding countries. This acronym had been used in 2001 to refer to an investment strategy by Goldman Sachs in these four very promising economic markets. In 2010, the BRIC invited South Africa to join them, which became effective on January 1, 2011. The group is now called BRICS, with the S for South Africa added to the acronym. Why is there so much enthusiasm for the BRICS? The structuring of the world after the Second World War was marked by the opposition between the West and the East. But with the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, following the fall of the Berlin Wall, this bipolarity transformed into a unipolar world order, dominated by the West, and marked by a nearly systematic violation of international rules. However, this did not prevent the gradual weakening of the West and the strengthening of the Eastern zone, which can be observed today. Indeed, a simple look at what is happening in the world shows that the 21st century is unfolding more on the side where the sun rises, around the Indian Ocean. The Chinese and the Russians have agreed to build one of the largest networks of road, river, rail, and airport transport from Mongolia to the major ports of the Indian coast. In the wake of the new Silk Road, Massive projects are underway throughout the inland areas. This includes the construction of cities, tunnels, pipelines, as well as the supply of water and electricity, transportation, and the development of basins and waterways from Kazakhstan to Iran, through Pakistan, Azerbaijan, the Emirates, Turkey, etc. Large ports are being built all along the coastal zone of India, whether on the side of Saudi Arabia or Thailand. Opposite, there is the eastern coast of Africa. It is no coincidence that Egypt and Ethiopia were chosen to join the BRICS at the beginning of the year. It is also no coincidence that the long-standing conflicts between Iran and Saudi Arabia, or between Yemen and Saudi Arabia, have been resolved thanks to China's intervention. These countries have a plan, and everyone who understands the situation sees the benefit of joining it. The BRICS symbolize the shift of the world's center from north to south, from west to east, or at least the diminishing importance of the former center. All major political decisions that have had a global impact are based on economic foundations. It is about securing natural and mineral resources, markets, influence, currency, and economy. To achieve this goal, there is a Western doctrine that involves using force, while the BRICS doctrine is based on trade and respect for each country's sovereignty. Even if China may seem to be leading due to its financial power, it cannot claim to lead India with its population and technologies. Similarly, neither India nor China can claim to lead Russia. Even though Russia is somewhat weakened by the war, it has a vast territory, immense resources, and is at the top in terms of technical and military capabilities. Moreover, China, India, and Russia cannot claim to dominate Iran, which has 20,000 nuclear engineers, as well as significant wealth and technologies. The BRICS member countries have no master and are not looking for one. They have interests that may diverge, but they share a common vision of international relations and how to interact with each other. This vision is based on the principles of state sovereignty, economic development, and non-interference in the internal affairs of others. Over the years, the system established at Bretton Woods has shown its biases and limitations. However, contrary to what some believe, the BRICS do not seek to destroy the UN or the WTO. On the contrary, the BRICS aspire to rebuild the existing system and reform its spirit while retaining the instruments. They wish for the objectives defined by these organizations to be strictly respected, while taking into account the changes that have occurred in the world since their creation.
The ambition of the countries in the global south is to have more influence in defining international rules. They seek to gain a legitimate and respected place within major institutions like the UN or the IMF, which struggle to reform and whose operating mode reflects a world considered outdated. The BRICS powers, which include Brazil, Russia, and China, aim to be the spokespersons for the global south and continue to welcome new members.
Iran and Egypt, for example, have just joined the club. Cooperation among the members explores ways to strengthen internal ties and reduce dependence on Western-dominated systems. These systems are often used to penalize the global south with serious consequences. The BRICS represent the realization of a multipolar world. They offer the opportunity to shape a more equitable global order, tailored to the needs of the global south. They aim to create a fairer system that protects these countries from the impacts of rivalries between major powers. Within the BRICS, no one is forced to choose a side. The North-South or East-West divisions, already present for several years, have intensified over time. They have become glaring and unbearable with the COVID-19 crisis, the trade war between the United States and China, and especially with the conflict in Ukraine and the American and European sanctions against Russia. The rest of the world has been able to witness the unabashed hypocrisy of the West and its ostentatious disregard for rules and international law.
Piétinement ostentatoire des règles et du droit international. La saisie illégale et le vol à ciel ouvert des avoirs.
The illegal seizure and open theft of Russian or Equatorial Guinean assets, as well as the use of force and military, monetary, and diplomatic coercion, have had repercussions on third countries. This has made them realize that it is absolutely vital to extricate themselves from the system of Western hegemony. This is why there is a rush towards the BRICS. One of the core values of the BRICS is to address existing inequalities within international bodies. They promote a more inclusive global governance that is representative of current realities. They also seek to build a partnership for accelerated mutual growth and sustainable development while respecting the equal sovereignty of each country. The economic and financial pillar, the political and security pillar, as well as the cultural and people-to-people interaction pillar. So, how to join? In light of what I have just explained, one can understand the enthusiasm that the BRICS generate, and not just among Africans. Hardly a month goes by without a country requesting to join them. At the time of recording this video, apart from Turkey, Thailand, Malaysia, and Azerbaijan, have recently formalized their candidacy, bringing us to about 30 applicants. I hear so many people make mistakes and say incorrect things about joining the alliance that I'm going to take the time to explain it now. First of all, to apply, a country must be a member of the UN and must not have initiated or associated with sanctions against a BRICS member country, unless those sanctions were taken within the framework of the UN Security Council. That's the basis. The BRICS expansion process is still being developed, as recently confirmed by Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. But at the Johannesburg summit in August 2023, which I had the honor of being invited to, unlike Emmanuel Macron, a procedure was adopted. Joining the BRICS involves 4 stages, and each stage has specific terminology. A country wishing to join the BRICS must submit a formal written request through the head of the executive or the foreign minister. These are the only 2 people authorized to do so. This request must be addressed to the president of the BRICS. The BRICS presidency is rotating. Those applying in 2024 will send their request to Vladimir Putin, who currently holds the presidency. Those applying next year will send their letter to the Brazilian Lula da Silva.
Adresseront leur courrier au Brésilien Lula da Silva. Dès lors que cette demande formelle est réceptionnée,
as soon as this formal request is received, the BRICS president forwards it to the other member states. In BRICS terminology, the requesting country is then referred to as an interested country. It receives by correspondence the guiding principles, standards, criteria, and procedural details. The second step involves the review of the application by the Sherpas of the existing members. If the Sherpas issue a positive recommendation to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the candidate moves from the status of interested country to that of potential member state. The third step is the examination of the file by the foreign ministers of the current members. The candidacies that receive the minister's approval are forwarded to the heads of state, who then review the files and discuss them. If a consensus is reached around a candidacy, the potential member state moves to the status of invited member state. The BRICS president then informs the leader of the concerned state of the BRICS decision and requests the designation of a Sherpa. When the invitation is formally accepted through an official letter sent by the head of the invited member state or its foreign minister to the BRICS president, that state then becomes a BRICS member on the date specified in the invitation.
précisé dans l'invitation. Généralement, c'est le 1er janvier de l'année.
Generally, it is on January 1st of the following year that the membership takes effect. This is the procedure for joining the BRICS. No one proposes your candidacy. You prepare your application yourself and send it. There is no mentor in this matter. Then, during the various stages of discussion, there are naturally supporters who try to convince others of the merits of a particular membership or rejection. At the end of this process, 6 countries had been invited by the founding members to join the BRICS, starting January 1st, 2024. But as I speak to you, only 4 of them have actually become members of the group.
Parmi eux sont effectivement devenus membres du groupe. Il s'agit de l'Égypte, des Émirats arabes unis, de l'Éthiopie et de l'Iran.
This concerns Egypt, the United Arab Emirates, Ethiopia, and Iran. Argentina, whose presence on the list was, in my opinion, quite incongruous, as I mentioned from Johannesburg last year, fortunately declined the invitation and withdrew its candidacy. As for Saudi Arabia, it has not yet, at the time of speaking, formally accepted to join the BRICS, and thus remains an invited member, not a full member. It should also be noted that, despite the admission of new members in 2024, the group's name has remained BRICS. They haven't added letters and numbers endlessly. So how are they organized? Unlike the UN, the African Union, the European Union, ECOWAS, ECAS, and SATC, the BRICS are organized in a very flexible manner, more like a club. They have neither a headquarters, nor a general secretariat, nor a founding treaty. There are 3 levels of decision-making within the BRICS. Starting from the top, there are the summits of heads of state or government, which take place once a year. Then, there are the meetings of foreign ministers, which are usually held twice a year formally and once or twice a year informally. These informal meetings often occur on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assemblies, with the 79th session opening on September 10, 2024, and the high-level debates taking place from September 24th to 30th. They can also occur on the sidelines of other international summits, like the G20 or the COP. For those who don't know, COP stands for Conference of the Parties. And finally, there are the Sherpas and under-Sherpas, whose official meetings often follow the same rhythm as those of foreign ministers. So, some may wonder, what is a Sherpa? They are career diplomats, or senior officials. They are the personal envoys of heads of state or government. Their role is to prepare international summits and high-level meetings for their principals. They are the ones who develop the agenda, negotiate agreements, conduct often highly confidential and technical discussions, draft the final documents, and ensure the follow-up of decisions made by the leaders. Originally, the term refers to a Tibetan tribe known for serving as mountain guides and baggage carriers in the Himalayas. Those who have read Hergé's comics, which could be racist and colonialist when it came to Africa, remember the Sherpa Tharki in Tintin in Tibet. At summits, the spotlight is on the presidents, but it is the Sherpas who work behind the scenes all year round. The Sherpas are assisted by deputy Sherpas. Their formal meetings follow the same rhythm as those of the foreign ministers. Informal meetings take place throughout the year, either in person or online. Apart from the heads of state, foreign ministers, Sherpas, and deputy Sherpas, there are no BRICS representatives in any region of the world. This position does not exist in the BRICS organizational structure. There is also no BRICS headquarters in any region of the world. It does not exist. So when in 2022, I believe I saw headlines claiming that BRICS would establish their headquarters in Central Africa in Bangui or in West Africa in Dakar, I immediately warned that this would not happen. The delegation received by African heads of state did not officially represent BRICS in any way. In the BRICS ecosystem, there are institutions, platforms, mechanisms, working groups, and initiatives.
Deux institutions financières ont été formellement créées par les
Two financial institutions were formally created by the BRICS in 2015 based on treaties signed in 2014. They are presented as equivalents to the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. These are a reserve fund called the Contingent Reserve Arrangement, CRA, and the New Development Bank, NDB. The headquarters of the NDB is in Shanghai, and it has 4 offices worldwide. The African Regional Center in South Africa, the American Regional Office in Brazil, the Eurasian Regional Center in Russia, and the Indian Regional Office in India. Apart from that, there is the BRICS Business Council and the BRICS Women Business Alliance, which bring together businessmen and women from member countries. Their meetings always take place before the summit of heads of state. There are also 2 platforms that have become institutionalized over time as BRICS events. These are the BRICS outreach sessions, where the member state presiding over the alliance invites countries from its region to participate in certain exchanges or activities. There are also the BRICS Plus sessions, to which countries from the Global South, beyond the organizing region, are invited. Throughout the year, numerous meetings and ministerial working groups take place. Thus, in 2024, more than 250 BRICS activities will be organized by the Russian presidency. Ministers of transport, energy, agriculture, health, finance, environment, sports, trade, communications, and other sectors have met. Customs, tax, health, security, parliamentary administrations, as well as space, statistical, and scientific agencies also participated. There are also meetings between think tanks, researchers, experts, and academics within the BRICS Academic Forum and the BRICS Think Tank Council. Filmmakers, cultural figures, artists, youth, and municipalities from member countries and beyond are exchanging ideas. It's buzzing everywhere.
Échange, ça bouillonne de partout. Il y a aussi des événements comme les Jeux des BRICS auxquels peuvent participer.
There are also events like the BRICS Games, in which athletes from around the world can participate without the risk of being sanctioned or excluded, unlike the Olympic Games, which have become the political games of the West. There are also initiatives taken by private actors or states that identify promising niches, either for member countries or to facilitate dialogue and business opportunities with non-member countries. As I have already told you, the functioning of the BRICS is very informal. Here's an insider tip. The best way to understand where the BRICS are heading is to carefully read the statements that conclude the summits of heads of state, as well as the meetings of other bodies. They are often very long, I admit, but also very interesting to read. This is where you will find the recognition and praise that leaders can give to individual, private, or state initiatives that align with the BRICS vision. This does not make these initiatives or their proponents representatives of the BRICS, but it indicates that their projects or approaches are approved and encouraged by the heads of state. What is the perspective for the BRICS and for Africa? In 2008, the creation of the BRICS coincided with Barack Obama coming to power in the United States.
Coïncide avec l'arrivée de Barack Obama au pouvoir aux États-Unis. À l'époque, l'initiative des puissances émergentes avait suscité.
At the time, the initiative of the emerging powers had caused great anxiety in the West. A sign of this concern is an event that took place on the sidelines of COP15 in Copenhagen in 2009. Obama forced his way into a meeting that brought together 4 members of the BRIC: Chinese Premier Wen Jiabao, Brazilian President Lula da Silva, Indian Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, and South African President Jacob Zuma. They had decided to present a united front in the climate negotiations. This even escalated into strong tensions between the American and Chinese security services.
Entre les services de sécurité américains et chinois. Et Obama s'est fait copieusement insulter en mandarin.
And Obama was thoroughly insulted in Mandarin by a Chinese negotiator. Merkel walked out of there. Then, as the years went by, the anxiety of the Westerners eased. They noticed that the BRICS, despite setting up financial institutions, continued to focus their efforts on existing instruments like the IMF, the World Bank, or the United Nations. It must be admitted that there have been no real advances among the BRICS on this subject. The CRA is still a quasi-dormant institution that has just completed its 6th testing phase. And the NDB, which has today expanded to 5 new members in addition to the founding members, cannot yet position itself as a major competitor to the Bretton Woods institutions. However, with the deep geopolitical divide marked by the COVID crisis in 2020 and the war in Ukraine in 2022, as well as the recurring and massive violation of international law by Western countries in these 2 cases, the BRICS now benefit from new momentum. Thus, on June 19, 2023, through its Foreign Minister Emmanuel Macron, attempted to invite himself to the 15th BRICS summit, scheduled 2 months later in Johannesburg, South Africa.
And so we are thinking out loud, but it is obviously a decision that the countries concerned are alone in making. It is about the possibility of continuing this dialogue, perhaps at the BRICS summit or in another format. In any case, it is not up to us to decide, of course. I repeat, but the President of the Republic can consider it. It is an invitation.
A pitiful push that once again made the French president and his diplomacy the laughingstock of the world. This earned him a very blunt rejection from the South African executive.
The French president wanted to attend the BRICS summit in South Africa. Why did you not invite him?
We didn't think that there was really a theme or place.
We did not think there was really a theme or a place for him in our deliberations, and we had a lot of work to accomplish. The interest came quite late, and the BRICS members, unfortunately, our practice is that we decide things by consensus. So President Ramaphosa consulted all his colleagues, and there was no reason for the 5 to want the President of France there.
To have the President of France there.
But as ridiculous as Macron's approach may have been, it shows the renewed apprehension that the BRICS are once again causing among Westerners. It is to be hoped that this time the group will hit its stride. It should succeed in fully operating not only the existing instruments, but also in establishing a payment system independent of any policy. This system should be profitable and accessible to governments, businesses, and ordinary citizens to bypass the SWIFT payment system, used as a weapon to sanction those who do not submit to Western hegemony. It should be noted that the first president of the NDB, Indian Kamath, worked on laying the foundations for its operation. He established its organizational structure and defined its strategic priorities. His successor, Marcos Trojo, appointed by Brazilian President Bolsonaro, did not show much dynamism in advancing the bank's agenda. Bolsonaro was not a big fan of the BRICS, but rather a close ally of Donald Trump.
Beaucoup de dynamisme pour faire avancer l'agenda de la banque, ce qui a conduit, après le retour de Lula au pouvoir,
what led, after Lula's return to power, to his replacement during his term in 2023 by Dilma Rousseff, the former president of Brazil, who is more aligned with the BRICS objectives. Next year, in 2025, Russia will take over the presidency of the NDB for 5 years. Regarding the expansion of the BRICS, even if it won't please some, I think there will be no invitations to join the group issued at the end of the Kazan summit from October 22nd to 24th, 2024. I could be wrong, but I think that given the group's flexible organization, the functioning that was rather simple with 5 becomes more complicated with 10, and a real headache with 15, 20, 30 or more, especially with the consensus rules that currently prevail within the alliance. It is essential to carefully select candidates to avoid a blockage of decisions which have so far been made unanimously within the BRICS. We must be wary of infiltrators, people who do not really know why they are joining the group, or who bring nothing of value. I think Argentina, under Milley's leadership, did the BRICS a favor by declining their invitation and withdrawing its candidacy. It could have accepted and blocked the decision-making process from within, under Washington's influence. However, with leaders like Xi Jinping, Putin, and Modi, I think they will be cautious. I recommend establishing observer and partner country statuses. These could participate in certain meetings or initiatives without having voting rights.
Sans pour autant avoir un droit de vote. Les formats des BRICS Outreach et BRICS Plus, dont j'ai
The BRICS Outreach and BRICS Plus formats, which I mentioned earlier, already allow for contacts and collaborations beyond the member states. In any case, we will have clarity in a month. Finally, regarding African countries, apart from the 3 already present, they need to do their homework and get their affairs in order before considering becoming full members of the BRICS, like South Africa, Egypt, and Ethiopia. Already, countries using the CFA franc have no chance of joining. An organization whose founding principles include the de-dollarization of the economy will not accept into its decision-making circle countries that have no sovereignty over the management of their currencies. Similarly, no country with a Western military presence on its soil can aspire to join the AES Confederation. That's the very foundation. A good way to become interesting in the eyes of the BRICS is to increase the volume of trade and social interactions with member countries. It also seems wise to establish a BRICS unit within our foreign ministries, responsible for monitoring, contacts, reporting, and analysis. Those who need advice on this matter can contact me, so I can connect them with Professor Mamadou Coulibaly. In addition to being the undisputed expert on exiting the CFA franc, he is also the most informed person on the BRICS in Francophone Africa. And I believe I know a little about the subject. If unable to join the BRICS themselves, our countries can work towards integrating into the BRICS Bank. Countries wishing to join the new development bank, which primarily finances projects of member countries, must be recognized by the UN. They must submit an official application, share the bank's objectives and principles, commit to respecting its statutes and regulations, and contribute to the bank's capital according to a negotiated share that will determine their voting rights. They must also actively participate in the bank's activities and have their membership ratified according to their internal legal procedures. The membership application must be approved by the Board of Governors, composed of the bank's member states. If an application is approved, the concerned state is invited to become a full member of the NDB once it has paid the agreed capital and ratified its membership. This is how Algeria, which had applied for BRICS membership in 2023 and was bluntly rejected, chose to focus on joining the BRICS Bank. This approach was successful after the NDB's Board of Directors, meeting in South Africa last week, approved its membership. Once it has freed up the capital and completed the necessary ratification, Algeria will be able to benefit from NDB financing. In 2021, Bangladesh and the United Arab Emirates became members, followed by Egypt in 2023. Uruguay, whose membership was approved in 2021, has not yet become an effective member to date. I therefore recommend that African states take the necessary steps to join the NDB and free themselves from the conditionalities imposed by the Bretton Woods institutions. I hope this behind-the-scenes look at the BRICS will help you better understand, qualify, and evaluate their functioning, potential, and geopolitical and economic challenges, especially for African countries. We Africans have been conditioned for too long without even being asked our opinion. By force, whether through cannons, rifles, pistols, whips, or even coups d'etat, it has been imposed on us that our relations and transactions must be directed towards the north. According to some, this should continue indefinitely because, as the servants of modern times often repeat, the African and European continents have a linked destiny. And this, even if it is to the detriment of our prosperity and well-being. This is how we have endured slavery, colonization, and continue to endure neocolonialism, neoliberal crony capitalism, and France-Africa.
Le capitalisme néolibéral de connivence et la France-Afrique. L'extérieur est une contrainte pour tous les pays du monde qui ne vivent pas.
The outside world is a constraint for all countries that do not live in autarky. Today, no country is completely isolated. But depending on the outside for trade, whether for imports or exports, or even simply being geographically located in a certain neighborhood, does not mean one must submit. There is an undeniable convergence between the refusal of submission expressed by populations in certain African states and the BRICS. The sovereignty we firmly claim today endogenously in Africa is also an exogenous demand of the BRICS. Go East.
Est une exigence exogène des BRICS. Go East. Si vous considérez que cette vidéo vous a été utile, n'oubliez pas de
If you find this video useful, don't forget to subscribe, give it a thumbs up, share the link on your social networks and in your WhatsApp groups. Comment to counter the Facebook and YouTube algorithms that try to make us invisible. If you can, contribute to my funds, whose links appear on the screen, or by clicking the thanks button next to the share button under this video on YouTube. This will help me continue to produce educational content like this. It's work. Thank you.
C'est du boulot. Obrigada.
If you value our translations, please consider supporting us on Patreon. The link is in the description. Thank you very much.